Hello everybody, I am CS Raju Dubey and we are here to discuss a chapter of economic, commercial, intellectual property laws in the module 1 of CS Executive, in the module 2 of CS Executive new syllabus for you. Everyone, this class is very important in terms of your syllabus or as well as the topic is concerned. The topic we are going to discuss today is money laundering. So money laundering is a very popular buzzword in today's scenario if you talk about in our country or throughout the globe. As a students, what is the money laundering? Let me give you some facts which are available. You can also cross-verify with. There are more than 5,000 plus cases as per the ED, Enforcement Directorate, which is a regulatory authority, or you can say enforcement authority in India, who take care of the money laundering cases in India, Enforcement Directorate. They said more than 5,000 plus cases have been registered for the different matters relating to money laundering. Then after, and this money laundering being an illegal activity, and that's why we have an act called Prevention of Money Laundering Act. In short, we call it PAMLA, that is enacted in 2002 by our government to prevent the money laundering practices in India. So guys, I'm talking about some facts relating to money laundering. So when you're talking about money laundering, we have a very latest case in 2022, and that is called ABG Shipyard, which has reported more than 22,000 crore rupees bank fraud involving money laundering have been investigated by CBI in the Supreme Court. Now the investigation have been widened with the help of the Enforcement Directorate and other enforcement agencies, which ends linked directly to the money laundering cases. Not only this, in US, there's a bank which is a huge bank which has involved in a money laundering case involving a corpus of more than $319 billion in the year 2004 to 2007, involving the drugs cartel of the Mexico link, which is also like not only the India which is being targeted with this. Of course, the country, in our country, India, obviously the money laundering is rooted. It's called in Mauritius, Switzerland. We had lots of reports in our day-to-day newspaper. We see the matter relating to money laundering is being popularly known in our part of the world. So when I'm talking money laundering, guys, I want to share some facts regarding how it is important. It is a law passed in our Parliament 2002, which came into force from 2005, which is called Money Laundering Act, or PAMLA, that's called Prevention of Money Laundering Act. This act basically talk about how we can stop this crime of money laundering. When I'm using the word crime, because it is a criminal activity, an illegal activity, how we can say this is an illegal activity, let us again understand. When we're talking about money laundering as a crime, it involves laundering. That means converting the black money in layman's language. When you're talking about the illegal aspect of money laundering, it is converting the black money into white money. When you say black money into white money, we don't say take the entire dirty money into a washing machine and clean it up by using a detergent and all. We mean convert those illegal sources to legal channels through different processes. So it's a complete process. Say, what is called a black money? Let us understand. When we talk about black money, we're talking about a money which is not being taxed, or rather which has not been recorded in books of account, or not being shown to the authority, not being you can say pull up for the purpose of income tax or goods and services GST taxes in India, or any sort of channel through banking, otherwhere it cannot be traced, right? Suppose you get a dowry money in your marriage, a 1 crore gold money. You say in dowry, obviously you're not going to go to income tax department. You say that, bro, so that's I got 1 crore of dowry in the marriage, because dowry is an illegal activity in our country as per the law. Hence, you will definitely try to hide that money. And there where the process of black money come into play. Different kind of offenses like kidnapping, drugs cartel, you say terrorism, you say human trafficking, sex trafficking, arms trafficking. You've seen the movie Pushpa, where That Pushpa Bhau, he talks about, he do, that smuggling, that red sandalwood smuggling, which is a very famous link to the Virappan case also. You see, there are, these activities are not legally permitted. The illegal activity being pursued in our country. And now that sources of money that are coming out of it, say kidnapping or abduction, you're talking about smuggling, you're talking about corruption, all these kind of activities involve huge, huge crores of money that are sourced in these channels, and now they are black money because we can't show it to the income tax department or show it in and pay the tax on it. Henceforth, as a person, you will try to convert this black money into white money so that you can use it and channel it into our economic system. And this has now, you can say, is being inside the blood. Corruption is, take an example of very famous white collar crime in India or in the globe. It's corruption. Corruption, whatever form it is, right? And this corrupted money, crores of corruption money is being floated in our part of the world. So how you use it? You understand that? So you want to use that corrupted money, illegal money, and how you source that money? You want to convert those black money into white, means of different channels of your transaction. You route the money through different sources. You break the money into very small portion and make the money to the distance places, and then take the money back again through different channels. So all these kind of activities, which are obviously not at all correct, legal, legit, hence they're being prohibited as illegal sources of money in our country. So when I say money laundering cases, it is growing, drastically growing. In very recent time, we see the newspapers, lots of reports come. Just have a Hindenburg's report on Adani's matter, where we heard how the money laundering cases have been done. I've just named a very famous landmark 2022 case, India's biggest bank scam of ABG Sefia, Gujarat-based firm involved in money laundering cases. Apart, we have seen money laundering matters in politicians and big celebrities and heavy power people who have converted this money by distancing money. You heard the concept of safe havens. You heard the concept of Mauritius link. You always heard the concept of Switzerland's Swiss bank account, where you see that the safe havens, we call it, where you don't have to pay taxes. You put the money over there for a long period of time, then convert those money in the form of different portfolio or FDI investment to our countries in different form of shell companies being used to convert those money into legit sources. You know what a shell company is? Shell company means a company which is actually not a company, which is not functioning. It's a kind of paper company, which is not at all being registered or legitimately functioning. It is just a company in the paper books, wherein the company is being created, there's no business at all, there's no functioning at all, on the books only. They're just made to ensure that they book lots of losses, hence they receive they have a prospective business, they sow it. And then after, they source the money from international sources. As I told you, like the Swiss bank account holders, they will route the money through the links of FDI, bring the money into country to help these companies to do a business, and later part this company make a losses henceforth because they're not at all doing business at all. Hence the money will ultimately be shown as a loss to their book, and the money will be transferred to the people. Another classic example where the money laundering can be done is the Hawala transaction. You heard this Hawala transaction, like they're like unorganized form of money transfer, wherein there's no proper identification. The whole business runs on the basis of trust between people. There are passwords and technical local methodology used to route the money from one place to another without even taking the money through the banking or the channels. The Hawalas are very famous because I see when demonetization was ordered in the country in 2016-17, you see lots of Hawala businesses have been shut because of this. Business were totally depending on the black money transaction through cash. Right? In what happened in Hawala? Let's say I have 1 crore rupees. I need to pay that 1 crore rupees to somebody in distance place like Hyderabad or Bangalore, and I can't do it through a bank account. because I don't want to show it to the income tax department or GST, or don't want to pay the banking charges and all that. In general, if I have to say, guys, in general, there are approximately 50. There are approximately, if I have to say, there are 50. Approximately 50%. Yes, 50%. Yes, gentlemen. Okay, 50% taxes in general a businessman pays. Say you pay 18% GST, 2% the banking charges and cess taxes, and then approximately 30% as a corporate tax. So in total, pay around 50% of your income you can save to the government. Now look at a very ordinary person in India as an individual who earns above 5 lakh rupees need to pay income tax. It's a 10%, 15%. And there's a slab system. If you study the income tax from our Mukesh sir, he's going to guide you how the income tax is being calculated in our part of the world for the different category of assessees, like the person who are eligible for the income tax and what kind of income tax they need to pay. But let me tell you, on an average, a business need to pay an income tax of approximately 50%. So imagine if you have a income of 1 crore rupees, you're paying 50 lakhs to the government in the form of tax. Now you grow that into 10 crores or 100 crores of revenues or income, then it hurts around 50 crore rupees. Or I'm not saying that we should not pay taxes. Obviously, taxes are the most important sources of revenue to the government by which they can do all the development activity. However, my dear friends, it becomes very difficult for a business to look up this as a acceptance policy that we are earning 100 crore rupees and paying 50 crore directly to the government, and then what happened? Your brain start thinking something different, and that way you start thinking, how do I save this 50 lakh rupees or 50 crore rupees which I am paying directly to the government? And then the crime occurs. Then hawala or money laundering or other kind of similar transaction, converting those, making sure that you start practicing the black transactions and all that. These things, so, because it's not small, it's around 50% tax you pay on an average. So save that, you do this. So money laundering as an act is a very important, because prevention of money laundering is a need of the hour. If I have to say, why do we need a money laundering? If I start from that, if you look at everybody, that what are the harmful effect of money laundering? Now, in general, if I say in one line, what is money laundering? Converting the black money into white money. Converting the black money into white money is money laundering. So when you say money laundering is not at all a legal activity, is absolutely and obviously illegal activity. So what are the impact of this? Why it is so illegal? So let us see by its impacts. When money laundering you're talking of widespread use of bribery, or the government officials being leading on corruption. Because when you see, as I told you, corruption is in the blood. Now it's in blood, it's being seen. We corrupt everyone. We don't even leave God. We say, oh my God, please help me to clear my examination. I'm going to serve you a prasadam of 100 rupees. And likewise, you start making the promises or bribe the God in that way. And we do the same thing with the parents, and now it is being done at the largest scale in economy. Like when you want a government job, or you want a government seat, or you want to taking into these schools as a management quota or something like and that. So you pay money. A classic example of bribing is that driving, right? When you in India we drive, we don't have the license proper, we don't follow the traffic rules. So what happens when the traffic policeman stops us? The first reaction is that pay the money to him and let it be. Please keep, sir, please keep this 100 rupees and let us go. Don't file a suit or case against us. Right? So you understand, at a very, very small steps or small levels also, the corruption is there. Henceforth, the difficulty what is happening is, now look at huge government projects. I was just talking to one of my friends, like who was day before yesterday in a meeting. He said he has a cousin brother who is working in a industrial area, and he just casually was talking that, sir, you know what, That gentleman for whom my cousin brother working, he has just got a railway contract. And by paying, he just paid 400 crore rupees as a bribe. 400 crore rupees as a bribe. Imagine. Now look at the level. It's a bribe amount of 400 crores. Obviously, you don't pay the bribe in check, right? Or you're not going to transfer through RTGS or NEFT or money transfer, right? You're going to pay this in hard cash, which is obviously unrecorded money. And then that money is obviously not going to use for a legit purpose. So, corruption is going to be increasing day by day, day in out and day night, right? And then after, when you go into next stages, it has a control over the vast sector of economy, and by harmful, look at this, economy by harmful persons through the investment by unfair means. Everybody see the gangsters. You heard all about there's a Dubai connection in our Bollywood. The movies are funded by this gangsters. The construction industries scams are very common. Like all those who are in, obviously exceptions are everywhere. Just a knowledge purpose we're sharing this information. Lots of construction business, the building contractors, the huge, unorganized sectors where the money is being flowing, the real estate sector. Who are they in power? Suddenly the gangsters take the role of a businessman. They suddenly change their faces from a black to white by using this means, because they have access to the legal sources through this money laundering routes. So what do you want? You want to see a gangster as a new statesman of the country? You want to see a big bhais or the gundas who are going to controlling the whole university or colleges in our system? You've seen lots of movies have been made in South also, right? You see Rajnikant's movie, a very famous Rajnikant's movie, where he exploded multiple aspect of the politicians, front end and back end. In front, they're very white collar people doing social work, and the back end, they're taking bribes and land acquisitions, the sand mafia, right? All these things, sources of money are, so they control the very important aspect of economy. So that is not good for the economy. Then we talk about, infiltration of banking and financial institutions, because what happened, guys, they are being used as a source for doing illegal act. The banking system get weakened. Suddenly, I just give an example of ABCPR case where 22,000 plus crore rupees have been scammed. Obviously, without the use of bank, cannot be. There were excess bank allegations at the time of black money when demonetization was going on. There were cases of Nirav Modi or very famous Satyam scam, right? In South, Ramalingan Raju, not this Raju, it was Ramalingan Raju, the Satyam guy, scam. We're talking about Vijay Mallya. We're talking about the CCD scam. So all these things are coming up very one and on. Where without involvement of this, then what happens? People lose the trust of bank. Bank is synonymous to the trust. So when we see that, okay, banks are being used for illegitimate purpose, imagine the banks will be questioned. The people will lose their trust. They're not going to put the money in the banks. So if the most important institution of society being questioned because of money laundering, right? Every now and then I heard about somebody's account have been freezed, or somebody's banking activity have been, cornered by the banks, or the orders have been passed by IT department or EDs. Then we do, social fabric and ethical standard, prevalent in the society get weak day by day. How it is, guys? If I have to give a very simple example, you'll understand. If I or anyone, any student, like a company secretary student who worked day and night to become a company secretary for the years, and suddenly he saw, after so hard work, get a job in a decent job in a corporate, he is earning money, paying taxes. Suddenly he finds somebody who was not even decent in education or any profession in your childhood, is a friend, is more richer than you, or more successful than you in terms of illegal, illegitimate means, what messages people will get? What is the use of so hard work, so dedication, so much of ethical standards when we're not able to enjoy the good lifestyle or good means? When somebody is without doing that, he's taking a shortcut in doing that. So people take the example. People take the example. In our, see our Bollywood is showing very well. Who is our heroes? The Pushpa Bhau. That Pushpa movie, you see, that gentleman has starred. He is a hero, but actually he is a criminal in real life. But he is a hero. Everyone knows Pushpa Bhau, right? Then we talk about KGF. Have you seen the KGF movie? And you see that guy, that gentleman, the KGF guy who's saying that Rocky Bhai. Who's Rocky Bhai? A deep criminal, right? But he's being shown as a star. So what kind of example are we setting him? When you see Scam 92, you see Harsat Mehta. What kind of example? He's being shown as a hero, right? Because it was cinematography, and thanks to our constitution, which is granting everybody's fundamental right of information to be flowed in, or speech and expression, correct? So, but look at that. Look at the social fabric is being gone. Somebody, you are not qualifying the PMT examination of medical because you not got a decent percentage, or CAT examination. Suddenly your a friend who belong to a decent family, they can fund you. The college is being giving the admission in name of medical quota. So what messages are we giving to the society? Our social fabric is going down. So stop money laundering is a very important, it's ill effect. Weaken the democratic institutions and the grassroots level. So you heard about the very common thing which is being shown in our part of the world in terms when you talk, the concept of vote for the cash or cash for the vote. That we all heard in elections, crores of money are being thrown away in the name of publicity or campaigning. What happened? They are shortcut to the success. Where the crores of cash is coming up? Why not there is accounting and recording of this? So these things are very much, what is happening is, in money laundering is increasing. Overall thought process of the people are changing towards the development of the nation. So now you know some of the bad effects of money laundering. So what is the money laundering? Now let me come to the definition of money laundering. So section 3 of the Money Laundering Act, everybody, section 3 has been defined. Section 3 of Money Laundering Act talks about the definition of money laundering. What is the definition? Whosoever acquires, owes, possess, transfer any proceeds of the crime. Now keyword is proceeds of the crime. That means not every money is the involvement of money laundering, or knowingly enters into any transaction which is related to the proceeds of the crime, whether directly or indirectly, and then conceals also, aids or concealment of the proceeds of crime, commit the offences of money laundering, right? Now here, when you're talking proceeds of crime, it means the property derived, obtained directly, indirectly, by or in person as a result of the criminal activity relating to the schedule offense. What do you mean by schedule offense, everybody? Look at this. Schedule offense is a list of offenses which are called as illegal activity under PAMLA, that is the Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. Schedule offenses are, it lists in two categories, Part A and Part B. Part A of the schedule talks about, generally what do you mean schedule? Every act in India, law is also called an act, being passed in the parliament. Act passed, the day is passed, given the year called 2002. Now, it is lots of things are written in schedule, that is attachment to the act, which have lots of items, so it cannot write in a word. So we make a attachment in the form of schedules, and that schedule, everybody, provides for the name of the offences. Here in Part A of the schedule talks about the instances of waging a war against the country, the government of India, that is a terrorism attack, offences relating to narcotics, and a very heavy offences. Schedule 2 is again offences of any nature which value more than 30 lakh rupees, which is offence again. maybe a corruption or maybe bribery or like that same instances of murder, kidnapping, extortion, or offenses relating to arms, wildlife. You heard about the very famous cases of smuggling of snakes and other wildlife animals for the different uses in the global market in illegal means. So when you're talking about the definition, it is being provided in section number 3. Always remember, everybody, section number 3 of the Money Laundering Act. Now let us go to the how money laundering happens. So in general, if I have to simplify the definition of money laundering, you have to say section 3 talks about money laundering, which is basically any kind of directly, indirectly offense, which you mentioned the schedule, where the proceeds of crime means the proceeds of money or monetary impact of property which is coming out of the offense you committed in a schedule to the act. That calls as offenses of money laundering, and this will be maybe directly, indirectly, maybe you directly involve, or maybe somebody, you help someone to do this, right? Or you conceal that information or the property, it will be covered in the same category. Now you go to the next category, gentlemen, everybody, then we talk about the process of money, how money laundering actually works. It works in 3 stages. First, what you do, the launderer, the person who do the money laundering is called launderer. The money laundering guy, the launderer, make sure that he plays the money. There's a placement stage. Huge, launderers introduces the illegal profits into the financial systems by breaking the large amount of money. As I give an example, 100 crore rupees into let's say 1 lakh rupees each. So divide this to 100, so 100 lakh rupees. So it's very easy to convert those 100 lakh rupees. Pay. If I have my 100 relatives, if I give it to them 10 lakh rupees, that's also okay, because banks don't look up too much when the transactions are less than 10 lakh rupees in an account, unless you have a very suspicious account and all that. Otherwise, banks have no need to look up details. When you have money laundering issues for the purpose of more than 10 lakh rupees in a bank account, the banks will keep a very close eye on your banking transactions. So guys, here the breaking the huge amount into small pieces and then layering it. That means the launderer will engage series of transactions, conversions or movement of this small money into the distances. What I'll do, I have the 100 crore rupees, I'll break into each chunk of 1 lakh rupees and distance into my different relatives, my friends and their friends in India or abroad. Route the money to Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Singapore, Mauritius, Dubai, everywhere, so that even tracing become a very difficult task. And the last one again, so this is the most important stage, everybody, because this is where the launderers play a very important role. This is where the hawala come into play, as I explained. The angadiyas, the hawalas, the you can say money transfer agent which are not registered, the hundi agents which is being traditionally used to transfer the money from one place to another, can be a very handy hands for the transfer of money. So one place to another, you transfer the money through them. But there's a risk involved, right? Lots of like indirect trade means that transportation. There are lots of news which used to come that the people we have a borderland, we're sharing borderlands with Bangladesh, Pakistan, Myanmar, Nepal, Bhutan. Hence, we have a trade with them through roadways. So there are lots of dry fruits being traded or different local items being traded. So people used to transfer the illegal money with them, convert those into small boxes or hide them in different cases and take them through the borders area, right? So these are the money laundering cases being reported very oftenly in our part of the world. Third stage and final stage come integration. Now bring the money back. The launderers now integrate the smaller amounts into large sum together. Let's what happened now. I'll give a classic example of this. Say I open an account. Let's say take an example of a Mr. Smart. Now, Mr. Smart is a very smart gentleman. What he do is, Mr. Smart, what he do is, everybody, he is going to, yes, Mr. Smart, what he do is he has 100 crore rupees. He breaks that 100 crore rupees into, let's say, 100 chunks, maybe 1 lakh or 10 lakh rupees. And now he route that money to Mauritius or Switzerland, Swiss bank account, and put up there through means of hawala or direct means of transportation to that country, a distance place. Now, different agents are involved. So he now bring that 100 crore rupees to Mauritius or let's say Swiss bank account. Now he'll use a company or financial institutions or mutual funds or banks and invest in India. Invest in India through FDI. Through FDI. Imagine this. Through FDI. So now India has a very open, liberalized policy for foreign direct investments. And through this channel, they bring that money into shell company. And now the shell company, since don't do any business, will book losses. So these losses will ultimately the money will transfer to the real beneficiary, the launderer. Okay? And how this black money converted into white money. Okay? And that's how the process happened in our part of the world. So, now what happened is, everybody, in money laundering, these 3 stages are always used as a process of money laundering. Let us revise once. First stage is the placement stage, where entire money is bring into the, entire illegal or black money is bring into the economic system. Second stage is now layering, that's break into small portions and distance it to the longer part, distance places from where tracing become a difficult. And last one is integration. Now bring the small portion to one place and now use a banking or financial institution through FDI or other means of investment into NGOs or other places where it's very difficult to understand that okay, these ways also money can be routed. Okay, use our weaknesses of law, like we need FDI badly since we are a growing nation. We need FDI badly. It's very need of the hour. Now in that, so you convert into, you become a very angel investor for that startup or company which in the need of funds, and somewhere what laws are relaxed to these companies also, or entities or agencies, and you use that sources, bring that money into the legitimate economic system, and now route that money to the launderers and they use it for the legit purpose. They save the taxes as well as they also bring, that the biggest problem is not taxation. Because I'm using it on very often saying that tax, not showing his own income tax, so it's a black money. I agree one side, tax is a very important aspect for the government revenue, but the biggest issue is not the tax. The biggest issue is everybody is the sources of money. Imagine you heard, excuse me, okay, imagine you heard this. Then suddenly terror entities are there. India is the biggest victim of terrorism because we are surrounded by a fantastic country which all of you know is famous for the Antakistan name, right? Terrorism is their startup. So what happens is that what they do, they need to fund these organizations internally, externally, inside India, outside India, so that they can employ their people, convert them for the mission or arms and ammunition, their money needed for different purposes, their training. So the biggest concern nowadays is drug cartel, the terrorism, the the sex cartels, the other illicit works, where these monies are growing like anything. You know, so for that, the government need to make very strong laws. You know, organization like Reserve Bank in India, along with SEBI, along with IRDA, along with IRDA, along with in India there is an organization called FIU, Financial Intelligence Unit, which is the department responsible. Let me tell you, FIU, Financial Intelligence Unit, and the ED. You can say that it is a ministry which is taking care of this departmental issue. That means the concerned authority, and the other one is the Enforcement Directorate. That is the police, you can say, in layman's language, who investigate. Advanced department which look up this enforcement related, that is the money laundering cases. And apart from that, there are RBI, there is called SEBI, Securities Board of India, there's called IRDA, there's called IRDA, everybody. IRDA, which obviously these are regulatory body of, IRDA is a regulatory body of insurance. It's called Insurance Development Regulatory Authority. Then we have SEBI, Securities Board of India, for the stock market. We have RBI, Reserve Bank of India, for the banking. So they are regulatory bodies. So they are also ensuring, making standards, making guidelines in different forms, wherein they are helping this money laundering issues to be sorted. Right? Everybody? Wonderful. So by means you can understand this is a very crucial aspect. You have to understand when you're talking about money laundering. Take care. Now let's see the punishment for money laundering. Everyone, when I'm talking about punishment for money laundering, it is going to open up your brain in terms how important is this legislation. Why so much PAMLA is needed? Because look at, now you understand the point of view of, or gravity of punishment we are providing under this act. Imagine, just read this punishment, you'll understand how important this act is. So here, everybody, any person who commits an offense of money laundering shall be punishable with an rigorous, there are two types of imprisonment, everybody. You understand imprisonment? The jail. There are two types of imprisonment. One, simple imprisonment, in which just go to the jail, hang out in a leisure way, not that exactly like what you do outside, but your physical movement, your everything is restricted, but there's no need to go and do hard work over there. But in rigorous imprisonment, there is a hard work requirement. You can't take a rest. You have to get your bread done by yourself. Continuous hard work, punishments, and rigorously you are being tortured in different physical way. So you don't have going there, having a leisure time in the jail, nothing as such, my dear friends. So you have to be they'll be tough on you for you. So rigorous imprisonment for a term which is minimum 3 years, that's how we write, not less than 3 years, but which may extend to 7 years. And also liable with a fine. So there's and matlab, see guys, there are two concepts of offenses we're going to discuss. One is compoundable, other is non-compoundable. So when you're talking about compoundable offenses, we're talking about less serious offenses where only fines and penalties are provided. But when talking serious offenses, not only fines and penalty, also there are imprisonment. So any offense which has fine as well as a penalty, that is fine and a penalty, fine or penalty and imprisonment, that is fine or penalty and imprisonment, this is called non-compoundable offense. There's no discount, there's no settlement from authorities. You have to bear both. And that's why it is so serious. So fines will also be levied, which will be extend to 5 lakh rupees. Now remember, this is over and above recovery amount which is being caught under money laundering. Apart, however, if that your crime relates with narcotics, relate with the narcotics, that is the drug cartel. The NCB is also involved. NCB is the Narcotics Control Bureau. As I told you, ED is a boss for this act. Similarly, so there is another agency. There's like ED, we have another agency which is called as NCB, which is called as NCB, Narcotics Drug Control Bureau, which is exclusively for the purpose of psychotropic elements like the drugs, right? In that case, if you caught under money laundering for the purpose of drug cartel or something, the maximum punishment, which was 7 years, will extend to 10 years, which is huge, everybody. That is too rigorous imprisonment, along with the fine as well, right? And the biggest part is that these properties which are involved in money laundering, be it smuggled goods or whatever nature it is, will be confiscated. So there is a difference, everybody, between confiscation and a seizure, which generally students get to heard this. So confiscation okay, confiscation, in which if authority find that goods, they were going to see, they are not going to return you. Suppose you're being caught with drugs in an airport. Imagine, you pay the fine, you take the imprisonment, and then after you ask the authorities, the custom department, excuse me sir, I want my drugs back. They will again take you to the jail. You see recently the newspaper and the news channels, the crores of rupees, the ganja and the alcohol bottles, the drugs, the affines being caught and destroyed by the departments because they are confiscated. Once the goods have been confiscated, it is not going to be returned by department. This is very important. On the contrary, on the other hand, if you have this seizure, it's a temporary confinement of the goods by the department authority. Upon investigation, if you're not guilty, the goods can be released back to you. Say for example, if you bring a laptop or a camera or iPhone from Dubai or a gold item which is over and above, need to be paid under the customs duty. You not pay the custom duty and came and airport authorities caught you. In that case, you will be going through a departmental inquiry and fine penalty, and then after the goods will be returned back to you. Here there is no confiscation. It is a seizure, a temporary you can say withholding of your goods with the department for the due process of investigation. So confiscation is rather serious and very important than seizure. And now next, everybody, section number 5 talks about that where any offense, everybody, or the officer has a reason to believe that any person in the possession of any proceeds of money laundering, such person have been charged of having committed a schedule offense. If you remember, everybody, we discussed what do you mean by schedule offenses. Schedule offenses mean the offenses prescribed under this act in part A and part B, where the list of offenses have been named and categorized, upon which the act relates to. And such proceeds of the crime are likely to be, concealed, transferred or dealt or etc., or in a manner or as a result frustrating any proceeding relating to the confiscation of such proceeds of the crime. Such officer, that means ED's officer, may by an order in writing provisionally attach such property for the period not exceeding 180 days from the date of the order. Now this is a kind of departmental procedure. If department, that is ED, have a reason to believe, yes, there is a matter, suspicion that the money laundering activity is being going on. So what they do is, they're going to order in writing. Those who have been involved or trying to conceal or helping somebody to transfer that money or the things out of the reach of the department or the authorities, then what they'll do? They'll order in writing to attach that particular goods. Attachment is again temporary seizure. They want to keep it with them because that particular object or the product or substance may be a issue and a fact where department need to make an inquiry, investigation, and then after they want to find a reason and make a charge sheet. So this 180 days time, department also have a deadline, because it may happen that people will allegate department is using undue advantages. So 180 days you got to make investigation, find out anything wrong or right, and then after carry on with the concept of the investigation in post facto rules. If I have to give an example of that, after 188, there are two things going to happen. One is either you will be released, acquitted by the authority or the court, or further investigation can be ordered, or there can be charge sheet by the department to the courts, and the cases will proceed further. This can happen. Okay, then obligation. Now, this is a very important aspect. See, if you want to really, if you really want to, work on how we can stop this money laundering activity, we can't only do that by means of making a stringent law or a punishment or a department or a similar way. That is needed, one hand. But on the contrary, let us work on the primary aspect, where you can do is you can educate, you can involve the. It's a very good example I have to say before I can go deep into this topic. Is that, see, if you heard some criminal is entering into a city and he's harmful to the society and people, first thing that a police department, law authority will do is stop him on the way. There are checkposts before you enter into a city or a town. So on the checkpost, the police will going to make a barricades, then caught you through a vehicle or whatever means you're coming to railway or airport, they will catch you over there and try to stop so that you should not enter into the society or the city so that you can achieve your ill will. Now, similarly, if banks, financial institutions, NBFCs, they are used as a means for doing money laundering transactions. If we can tie the hands, being an authority as a regulator or the bodies who are performing the work as an intermediary and financial bodies and banks, if they work in together, this can be a miracle. This can stop launderers, because you can't take 500 crore or 1000 crore in a taxi or a truck to the Switzerland or Mauritius. You got to use the banking channel. Henceforth, you need some very strong law as well as user friendly. The banks have to make a twin role. In one way, they have to be very stringent, very open. They should have a very open approach as well, so that customers don't feel any trouble while they're sharing their details with you. They feel better. Take an example, I'm talking about KYC guidelines. Okay, I was talking about KYC guidelines. So what is KYC guidelines? Gentlemen, I'm going to say every student, let's understand this. KYC is Know Your Customer Guidelines, which is a historical move by the authorities. It is obviously initiated by the international bodies, and then after Reserve Bank's collaboration. In KYC, we have a strong identification process, strong address verification, ID verification, and different advanced level of verification, maybe Aadhaar card or your PAN card, your you can say passport or other identification detail, which can help the bank in two ways. One, to identify the person, be it suspicious guy or be he is related with some organization or body which is not good for our society or country. And secondly, if we know the manner and methods of our customers, how they invest, how they are using the money. So it works in two ways. It's a two-in-one method. In one hand, you are using that money laundering means for your betterment of society. Sorry, you're using this KYC as a means to prevent money laundering, because we have the identification process let down. Say somebody have opened an account in fake name. So banks are required to do KYC annually. So they're going to ask you to come to the bank or do a verification process. If which is not being available, it is gone. Yes. Secondly, talk about everybody, it also helps the banks to serve their clients well. Because if you know your client better, you can serve them better. You know their habits, you know their uses, you know their requirements, So that's why you can serve them better. So when I'm talking about the topical obligations of bank and FIs and institutions and intermediaries in money laundering cases. We are talking about, first of all, in a money laundering process, generally the banks, the financial institutions, various intermediaries, which is like NBFC and other money transferring body, money transferring agents, the of the capital market and involves are also involved. Hence, the responsibility have been cast upon them under the Act. Act means the PAMLA, to keep prescribed records and information about the doubtful transaction to the authorities under the Act, and then everybody, it requires, section requires every banking company, financial institution or intermediaries to maintain a record of to all the transactions, the nature and the value of which may be prescribed, whether such transaction comprises of a single transaction or a series of transactions or legally connected to each other, when such series of transactions take place within a month, and these information are need to be furnished to the director, the boss under ED, director, director FIU, everybody, Financial Intelligence Unit, New Delhi, and may be present and prescribed by the banks and financial institutions, are also required to be verified and maintain the records of identity of all the clients in such a manner as may be prescribed. The records as mentioned above are required to be maintained for the period of 10 years. This is very important. So generally in the Companies Act or in accounting, you'll find the 8 years or 7 years, it's 10 years. So from that also you can also easily understand the impact of this laws objective. They want to go to the roots of this laundering issues. So date of cessation of the transaction between the client and the intermediary or banking companies. Now next section, I always advise my students not to force yourself to remember a section in a topic. This looks a little odd, but this is a fact. See, in CS course, the syllabus is the key. I have to make this one clear to you. In CS course, it is a syllabus game, huge syllabus to be covered. There are more than 50, 60 act, not sections or not chapters. Act you have to study in your curriculum. See, imagine how difficult for our students to remember each and every section, right? And there's nothing written anywhere that if you write the section, then and only you get a marks, or if you don't write the section, the marks will cut out. Nothing as such. You should know your concepts well, and you must write them in a language that everybody understands. So that's important, right? In that case, if I go there, then I'm talking about, like, state that section next. It talks about director. Here the director means the director of FIU. Either on its own motion or an application made by the authority. Authority can be Reserve Bank, can be SEBI, can be IRDA, can be ED, or an officer or person can call for the records of all the transaction and make such inquiry and cause such inquiry to be made as think fit, and in the course of the inquiry, if the directors find that the banking company or the financial institution or intermediary or any other officer or officers have failed to maintain and return the records in accordance with the provision of this act, then he may, by an order, here he means the director, levy a fine on such banking company, financial institution or intermediary, which shall not be less than, that is minimum 10,000 rupees just for not maintaining the record, and which may extend to rupees 1 lakh rupees for each of such failure. Each of the failure, I am not saying it has been established a case of money laundering. If it could have been, the punishment is in section number 4. But here, that is above section, we discuss punishment were up to 10 years, 7 years. Here, imagine, just to not record, not to maintain a record. Look at the level of penalty. So that is called, we want to encourage the banks and intermediaries to serve their clients better, they do business better. On the contrary, they should not also be used as a means for any illicit or illegal activity like money laundering. Right, everybody? So there has to be two-in-one approach from authorities' side. Now, next point is the central government. Everybody, in India, central government, that is the government of India, is responsible to make rules relating to any act. So central government may prescribe in consultation with Reserve Bank, because when you talk about bank, you can't think a single line without involving or getting a narration from Reserve Bank of India. So now the procedure and the manner of maintaining and furnishing the information for the purpose of implementation of the provision of this act. So anytime central government can make recommendations, can make rules by taking a recommendation from Reserve Bank of India, and can carry out, right? कहीं जा रहे हो? हाँ, okay, you come. सर चले गए? हाँ ठीक है, कोई बंद कर देना, कोई gate बंद. So now everybody, now let's see, and as we discuss KYC guidelines. So KYC is a very popular way, which is a two-way process. One, to encourage customers to be served better by the banks and FIs, and on the contrary, also to see the banks can stop being used as a means of an illicit or illegal act like money laundering. They should not be used, right? Because they are the most important agency, or you can say institution in our society. Without them, it's impossible to do economic activity. So here, everybody, know your customer guidelines being prescribed. So now RBI, Reserve Bank of India, have issued the guidelines. Known as Know Your Customer KYC norms in November 29, 2004. Objective of these guidelines were: one, safeguard the banks from acting as a chain in the money laundering activity. Second, help banks to know more about their customer and clients and serve them better. So it's a twin aspect. So following are the elements of KYC guidelines. First, banks need to make a customer acceptance policy, wherein, what do you mean a customer acceptance policy? A policy whereby banks are also happy, the customers are also happy. Banks are yes, the banks are also happy. The banks are also happy and the customers are also happy. So it's a win-win scenario where you can't ask everyone to give you a passport as an identity or address proof when he has already Aadhaar card. If Aadhaar card is available, why to force him to bring the passport, a difficult document? So it should be a policy which customers also don't get annoyed. Otherwise, very difficult for the banks to manage. Now next, now customer identification procedures are also established. That in past there used to be ration card, there will be employment letters, but there was a nomination facility where your friends coming, introducing yourself, okay, he's my friend, open his bank account. And banks used to do it. Not now. You need that nationally recognized identification process, like Aadhaar card. 1 person, 1 Aadhaar. Now monitoring the transaction, banks also need to see that high value transactions above 10 lakh rupees need to very much caution. These transactions must be cautioned and be careful. And then we have a management of risk. In banking business, the customers, that is the bank account holders, are actually risk holders. Their concept of NPA, non-performing asset. That's what actually is this. in which, if a, if a bank gives a loan, that becomes a customer's bank. And this loan holder, that is a borrower, is a very vulnerable guy. So if he don't pay his EMIs, the banks are going to lose him. So how you know, how you manage by the KYC means? Regularly you meet with him. Annually you have a compliance requirement that he's alive or not. There are lots of pensioners who are on the government pension list who are receiving the pension. They can't able to come to the banks or post offices or any banking government offices to give their life certificates. They are alive or not. So banks use KYC means to know whether that customer is there or not, or whether this address being mentioned in the customer's identification address proof is right or wrong, whether the same person who is account holder as well as the person who is using it is the same person or not. So all these things are governed under this, right, everybody? Okay. So now going to the next one, the money laundering as a global menace, and a global initiatives for the money laundering. See, it is not that, guys, that money laundering is the only offense or only impacting India. India is, yes, one of the hot countries in the list issued by the Global Department of US, in terms where India is one of the most targeted money laundering, or you can say one of the most money laundering criminal activities nations. Of course, because we are growing, we are used. Let's take a classic example of Pakistan. It is now grey listed by FATF, the Financial Action Task Force, which is the global initiative, which is the most advanced and powerful global institutional body which look up to the matter of money laundering in the country. They have listed Pakistan in the grey list. Now, if you go to the grey list, you are much suspicious in terms of exposure to the loans and advances. If you take a blacklist in this category, everybody, it will be out. No country is going to give you loan. No IMF, no ADB, the Asian Development Bank, or no international organization going to fund you. So that's how whether you're talking about drug cartel, you're talking about the bank corruption, you're talking other things, all these things are available in this concept of global initiative need to be taken to prevent the money laundering as a concept, which is not really good for the economy. So let us see how it is done. So money laundering as a global menace, number one, and as economic grow, their economic reach widens, as the financial transaction greatly enhances in such a situation that countries having inadequate control or becomes the vulnerable to the money laundering, lacking the comprehensive anti-AML, that is anti-money laundering norms or regulations. So these loopholes are always exploited by the money launderers and process their ill-gotten gains into the country for the sake of their gains. This in turn affects the financial setup of the country, shaping turn into FDI, since in this situation the country's commercial and financial sectors are perceived to be subject to control and influence of organized crime. So guys, the launderers' funds in turn dominate the economy, which is not good at all, and are out of the reach of the legal agency. And they also causes the far-reaching social, economic, and political effects. They can be used for offering the bribes to the public officials, every government, weakening the social fabrics. These are the impact of money laundering. We already discussed this. Ethical standards will be compromised, ultimately affecting the democratic institutions and society, thereby lowering the people's trust over the country's an economic setup. Now, some money laundering, since the money laundering is a multinational phenomena and a transnational cooperation becomes a very critical for combating, for competing, matlab that is as nothing as important import can be achieved if the countries tie their hands together to preserve their own country from being used as a money laundering destination. The creation of the FATF, Financial Action Task Force, and uh, other regional bodies or regional group such as the European Union, the Council of Europe, etc., are established as an anti-money laundering standards for their member countries. They can use as the international guidelines to prevent money laundering into their country. Okay, so you understand how important is FATF, how important is regional cooperation, because it's a money laundering is not only local problem, no, it's an international issue. So it needs international cooperation, international standards, because the launderers are more smart than the regulatory authority. Hence, we need to have this combating actions available to counter such kind of stiff actions. The FATF, that is Financial Task Force, was established in the year 89 as an international body which promotes the measures uh, taken up to counteract the worldwide impact of money laundering. Now, following are the main features or functions of FATF. First, to review the techniques adopted for money laundering, prevention of money laundering rather, and to how people are using money laundering. First of all, if you want to crack a computer hacker, first of all you need to learn how hacking is done. Next, check the initiatives made by the countries to counteract the money laundering, because there are lots of countries will come across that we have a very standard guidelines, we have a procedure established by the law which is there to combat, but the requirement is very high. When you're talking about fighting with a menace like money laundering, a police cannot be help, an ordinary agency cannot be an help. You need a very strong legislation as well as a departmental force involved into it. Now, so spread awareness among the non-members countries so that in future they don't become the target. Thus, FATF study, examine and evaluate the current situation, defines the policies, initiative, measures that can act as a solution to the problem of money laundering. It's continuous process. Look up the global aspect. Have to be very much into that. Yes, we have to cope up with the current needs. Our institution cannot be monotonous. It should be, you can say, pretty much. They must be, in a situation you can use the word. They must be ready to take up a new fighting techniques which is being used by these money launderers to impact your country. To prevent, you need a very strong anti-money laundering norms as well as action. So FATF study such things. Next, we to counteract, how you can counter the money laundering, to counteract the harm caused by money laundering, and with a view to prevent the same, Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002 was enacted. Now, this act provided to, in fact, you can say that our PAMLA, our PMLA, is nothing but an initiative action of FATF, right? FATF. Or since we are a member country, hence we also incorporated our PAMLA into this. Look at FATF was in 89, the rounds of negotiation is gone, and money laundering is reported. If you look at the reporting angle, it is a new stuff for us. So we enacted in 2002 obviously keeping a balanced approach or taking the standard from the FATF and other regional groups which are providing us the standards and guidelines, how we can compare with the money laundering issues in our country. Right, everybody? So, if you look up, everybody, this money laundering, FATF is a very important agency. Right? So, from the above discussion, we can round up our discussion in some aspects. So let us little bit recollect things. I told you about in this chapter about money laundering. The act is Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002, which is passed in our India, effective from 2005. What is money laundering? It's a illegal activity. It's a criminal activity as defined under this act. Supreme Court has already considered this as the most powerful crime in India, which money laundering means converting the black money into white money in layman's language. What is the black money which is not being sold to income tax or have been hidden money, or you can say you have not recorded the same, let's say all the sources of criminal proceeds like the drug cartel or arm trafficking or you can say sex cartel, you can sex trafficking, human trafficking, and corruption and briberies, kidnapping, extortion. All these are example of cyber crimes, which is a new buzz in terms of new era crime. So all these things are criminal activity. From that, huge money being accrued. So such monies are need to be recorded, need to be recovered by making a standard law. So if whoever has access to this money, whoever dealing in this money, whoever helping the people to deal in that money, whoever helping or doing it, concealing it, the proceeds of crime, which is the crimes are mentioned scheduled to this act, part A and part B. And similarly, proceeds of crime, if we caught, there can be confiscation, there can be penalties, like there can be fine which may be up to 5 years, 5 lakh rupees, penalties 3 years to 7 years. If it involves drugs and narcotics matter, it can range up to 10 years from 7 years. And then also a confiscation can happen. We discussed the difference between confiscation and seizure, where authorities once confiscate the goods, it can't be returned, it will be in the custody of the agency which is being which has been concealed, you can confiscated the same. Apart, we discussed the initiative by our country like KYC initiative. We discussed the impact of money laundering, right? What are the points which you discuss in the impact of money laundering, that how it weakened the society's impact in all that. And after that, we discussed the concept of process of money laundering, where we discussed the 3 stages like placement, layering, and integration of the proceeds of money laundering. We discussed the punishments and the procedure of investigation. We discussed how records are being prevented for 10 years and how what guidelines are being given by Reserve Bank by the means of central government. Rules are framed for the proper implementation and actions to be taken against the people who are using the money laundering in a wrong way. We just also discussed about the concept of KYC guidelines, which is being a latest initiative by the Reserve Bank and banking industry, so that banks can be prevented from being used as a means of money laundering. Right? Apart, we discussed FATF, which is a international body which is functioning with the different regional bodies, where member countries, non-member countries are being advised with standards and techniques and guidelines, so that they can make their own strong laws and combat with the problem of money laundering. Right? And various examples and latest cases, we have already discussed about this. We discussed the institution of FATF, where in 1989 it was formed, and where its situation and what its functions. So I hope, guys, the session which is being done for this part 1 of money laundering is being completed. In the next part, we are going to discuss some crucial aspect of money laundering, especially with the help of past year papers, questions, and very important and technical aspects which are being asked in the examination of CS as well as CA level, where the syllabus has been provided. Till then, you have to revise this concept in detail. Make sure you make your handwritten notes, everybody, wherein you can summarize your concept and revise the same in a very short period of time and recollect the same. If you make your own handwritten notes, what will happen to you? You can revise in 5-10 minutes easily. Right, everyone? In the next class, we're going to discuss the typical questions which are asked from this chapter in the past by the institute, as well as we have certain memory questions for you where you can, help to recover your knowledge. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, and all the best. We'll meet again. God bless you. बंद कर दीजिए.